Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Returning to Martian-caused chaos today, as we don't see a single group under siege, but an entire publication's worth of heroes standing against an interstellar horde. I'm taking issue with Mars Attacks image, where all sorts of protagonists will show up to defend the planet. Let's begin with issue number 1 and see if these comics make us want to turn the page or turn our heads. The cover is a pretty exciting scene. Countless flying saucers in the sky, a giant beam destroying a building, while Spawn, Savage Dragon, Gen 13's Fairchild, and a couple of guys I don't recognize are perched up or flying above a building, either wondering what their next move will be, or they keep having to change where they're grabbing dinner from because every place they pick keeps getting exploded. Written by Keith Giffen, with art by Andy Smith, Bill Sienkiewicz, and the team iHawk, we open on a Martian tundra, with narration of a report about Earth. It says that since World War II, Terran technology has surged, and at the current rate, this poses a threat to Mars for the same reason they've decided to avoid contact with Earth. Humans are unpredictable and aggressive. Unpredictable and aggressive? Is that all?
Which one of you said that? I'll show you aggressive, you lipless pieces of...
Large panels open from the ground, and a 2-page spread shows Martians climbing into ships and taking off, launching a preemptive strike out of a belief that mankind will be spreading its influence to their world. Kind of an extreme reaction to those minion memes on Facebook, if you ask me. 2 Martians, we can assume are higher up the food chain, are watching this and sharing a toast to their assault, while expositing that a mothership would be detected by Earth equipment, while the saucers are star drive capable and small enough to avoid detection before countermeasures can be mounted. There's still the superhumans to factor in, worth some concern.
But the superhuman is still the exception. That is why we strike now, before the superhuman becomes the norm. Or worse, the Greg.
Aboard one of these Stormwatch Sentinel orbital satellites, 2 guys are watching the monitors, despite the place being fully automated. So, do you figure it gets any duller than this? Can't have a crisis every day. It's that kind of rational thinking that got you fired from DC Comics, you know. They pick up the saucers on their scanners, recognizing the enemy targeting sweep too late to defend against the barrage of laser blasts, leaving them largely disabled and with numerous crewmen dying in the vacuum of space. We then go to Andrews Air Force Base. Sir, priority comm from Stormwatch Sentinel 1.
Dang it, Stanton! It's Storm Watch! I told you to learn your W's or you're fired!
The satellite managed to broadcast a short emergency message, though difficult to make out, and sent over a common line, so anyone could hear it. All that can be ascertained is that it seemed to be a warning of some kind. A warning of what, the guy in charge asks. Probably that beam that fries him and another operator.
Exclamation point!
Come on, dude, that's such played-out punctuation. I think a surprise of this magnitude warrants an interrobang. His doctor told him those cigars would kill him. Sure showed that college boy, huh? More saucers attack other military bases around the world, reducing their efficiency to under a quarter of what they were. So the Martians send in ground forces. These attacks, which include government facilities as well, are picked up by the news, watched by Grunge at the home of Gen 13, who calls over Fairchild because he thinks someone is pulling an updated Orson Welles.
Who?
Who? But you're the smart one! How does the Team Meathead know to make a War of the Worlds reference, but the ginger nerd doesn't get it? She thinks it looks real, but Grunge figures it's ripping off the Tim Burton movie. And yes, he's referring to the real-life Mars Attacks film Burton directed, which raises all sorts of questions. And he believes it's a prank despite it playing on every channel. Again, how does he know who Wells is but not her?
What follows is a terrifying journey into the world of probate, beneficiaries, and goblins.
Mr. Wells?
In Manhattan, Spawn watches as ships dispense a strange mist that smells of menthol, sensing something amiss and wanting to protect his homeless friends. The gas suddenly turns nearby cockroaches into enormous insect monsters, And in a city where bugs outnumber people 100 to 1, those odds ain't exactly good. This threat calls for a crossover between the Men in Black and the Orkin Man. In Chicago, the invaders face some opposition from the police, one of 2 officers managing to take one out in their hit-and-run maneuvers.
Nailed that sucker dead bang.
What?
They run into a couple more, one of whom kills Charlie, and his partner subsequently avenges him. Sadly, she runs out of ammo and would get her torso disintegrated too, if not for Officer Dragon swatting the alien's head off like it was a bug. The surviving cop, Alex, is understandably distraught, but Pinhead tells her they have to wait to mourn their losses. They are then met by Super Patriot, a World War II hero turned cyborg, saying the Chicago Loop is cut off, with the enemy exterminating people building by building. 2 heroes are on site, Rapture and Dart, but they're outmatched. The overall invasion is apparently doing better than the Martians expected, as they wreck buildings, attack citizens, and giving priority to superhuman bases, like that of Youngblood seen here. The interference of supers so far is minimal, like when Raphael of the Ninja Turtles attacks a Martian that shot a dog? Shot dog?
We will kill them all.
I don't agree with Bayformers Prime often, but when he's right, he's right. After a quick peek at a couple of members of the Wildcats fighting off intruders, while their founder, Emp, chats with the president, who did manage to make it out of Washington, we go to the 2 Martians from earlier, enjoying their success so far. It's possible the superpowered types might organize into a more formidable force, but there is a contingency plan for that event. In return for ending hostilities, they'll ask for the total eradication of superhumans. If they're led to believe this is their only chance at survival, they're likely to agree.
After which, we will exterminate the verminous lot of them.
Oh no, they discovered humanity's shared weakness, our refusal to read all the fine print in the terms of service agreements.
Oh, what proud fools we've been!
Next issue,
The Death of Spawn. Just kidding.
Considering what a revolving door comic book deaths have become, this feels like the equivalent of a knock-knock joke you've heard so many times, it's not even a little funny anymore. Issue 2's cover has Witchblade, Maul, Super Patriot, and Spawn fighting giant ants. You'll get our picnic baskets over Yogi Bear's dead body. Sterling Archer tried to warn us about knocking food on the floor, but obviously someone didn't listen. In NYC, an armored hero with a very Wolverine-like headpiece is rescuing a kid from the oversized pests.
My name's Shadowhawk, and I'm checking you out of this roach motel.
He wanted to use that line a few blocks ago when giant cockroaches were actually destroying a local motel, but the guests had all been eaten by the time he got there. They run into some soldiers who take the ant out with their rocket launchers before the CO asks what the hero's doing in a restricted area. Like the injured kid in his arms needing medical attention isn't clear enough.
There's a temporary MASH unit set up in Times Square. The surgeons don't make jokes, but there is a corpsman wearing a dress and a gruff but lovable colonel who has hundreds of colorful euphemisms for animal feces. This is an emergency after all, we're lucky to have that much.
Shadowhawk hands the kid over to the commander so he can head back into the fray, help any in those buildings who are still trapped and injured. We go to Detroit, where the Martians have created a central operations base for all of North America, constructed of various interlinked saucers after leveling several city blocks. Sheesh, first the Pistons lose to the Orlando Magic in the playoffs, now this. I dig the idea of the ships being able to form together and become a fortress. It's an ingenious way of showing their technological capabilities. We go to a Martian war room where they discuss the thus far week-long invasion. They confirm 36% control of Earth's land, and while humans are coordinating with each other to increase resistance, command centers are being destroyed as soon as they're discovered. Superhumans are too few to be much of a factor, so far, but one among them warns not to underestimate them. For now, they'll wait until they've taken half the planet, then begin total extermination. Outside the base lurk the deadly duo, Kid Avenger, the guy in orange, and his buddy, Killcat, who also looks like a certain Canadian X-Man.
Hello, lawsuit.
Wolverine, a character design so nice they ripped it off twice. Killcat doesn't believe these aliens are really from Mars, But Kid A recalls reading about this invasion in his own time, since he's from the future, meaning he knew this would happen, but never mentioned it. So his partner starts throttling him. I mean, kill is in his name, so not all that surprising, I guess. This seems to attract nearby guards, but instead of finding out how this plays out, we head to an apartment building in Chicago, where the aforementioned Dart is holed up with Rapture, whose hair looks like someone said, "Give me Rogue's coloring, but Starfire's length." They've been stuck there for days without reinforcements, as the area is too heavily fortified, but they're still determined to keep fighting. Despite Dart's injured arm, they decide to find a new hiding spot, but just as they get moving, they run into Martians on a termination sweep, with Rapture supplying covering fire with her electrical abilities, I'm assuming. The art does kind of make it difficult to tell. Their only chance is the roof. Or it might be, if not for all the flying saucers. Maybe if they dance around in those costumes, the Martians will think they're exotic dancers, not supers. Just when all seems lost for the two heroines.
Well, sir, I won't bore you with the details of our miraculous escape.
Yeah, all the scan sites I could find seem to have left something out, because it just goes from this to Rapture arguing with Super Patriot. I can't imagine the original issue made this kind of jump, so there must have been a mistake, like the person who scanned it forgot to upload a certain page. We have to assume that Dragon and Patriot took out the ships, bringing us here where the cyborg delivers the unfortunate news that they've been ordered to evacuate downtown Chicago, with the villainous team Vicious Circle staying behind to fight the invaders. Rapture drops down into the arms of her boyfriend Dragon, with neither of them thrilled about retreating. Above Los Angeles, one saucer of Martians is so surprised by the arrival of the gravity-manipulating freefall that they just stare in confusion while she looks for the ugly mug with the biggest control deck.
Phrasing.
She starts tapping the keys until the ship starts spinning away vertically and crashes into another, both destroyed in a big explosion. Lucky that hit an enemy vessel and not, a building full of survivors. Hey, did you like the cover of issue 1? Well, here it is, recreated by a different artist in a vertical 2-page spread in the center of the comic. Kinda interrupts the flow of the scene, but whatever. Roxy lands on a rooftop where Caitlin chastises her for being so reckless with that stunt, and then bonks Grunge on the head because he's so in awe of how Martians and flying saucers are real. They narrowly avoid a laser blast, helping to emphasize the redhead's point, when we go to a medical unit in Chicago, where Ricochet and Barbaric, I'll let you figure out who's who, find Nurse Ann Stevens, who's in the middle of treating some of the worst injured. They pull her away like she's lost her mind, but she insists these people need her. The big guy, on the other hand, says they need the hero, Mighty Man.
That's the coolest name ever!
Barbaric says the world needs saving, so that folks are prevented from getting hurt in the first place, which is something Ricochet backs up. So is Anne the only person in the world who can contact Mighty Man? Nope. She transforms into the hero, relenting to their plea and taking them along by one's belt and the other's jacket, though it looks like it's by Ricochet's hair. Which would come off as exceedingly petty, especially since they have a valid point. Okay, I'll turn into this powerful being to help fight a global invasion, but someone's getting a massive bald spot. Back to New York, where Sarah Pizzini is in full Witchblade mode, taking out several Martians. When the last of them falls, she encourages the group of civilians she's escorting to get moving again, though one of them asks where they can go that'll be safe. The Max appears from nowhere, telling them to try Times Square. There's a military presence backed up by some supergroup, but he's not exactly optimistic about how secure it is. He takes off to look for a friend, maybe help some others along the way, so Sarah decides to follow his advice and take the group to Times Square. New Jersey's end of the Lincoln Tunnel is flooded with survivors trying to escape New York, which Cyberforce leader Stryker tells a colonel may not be a great idea. One airstrike at that tunnel and we've got a catastrophe of biblical proportions on our hands.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
The soldier isn't concerned, since their interstellar foes have left the Big Apple to the supersized bugs, and some of their infantry to control them, coupled with the fact that there haven't been any flying saucers in the area lately. Right, if they're not around now, there's no chance they could show up later at a spot concentrated with the very people they're out to destroy. This colonel seems a few feathers shy of a full bird. But perhaps I'm being a bit harsh. He does admit, off the record, that nowhere is really safe anymore, and what news they've gotten isn't good. Any existing governments are in disarray, and many fighting forces are kaput, all because of the, admittedly, impressive effectiveness of the enemy's initial strike. Still, he wants to stay and fight, even if he dies. Weird little accident in the dialogue, he confides in Stryker that he doesn't think they stand then mentions some people in China are just lying down and dying. Seems the word chance was overlooked in this bubble.
You can count on us, sir.
Oh, goody. Help from a guy with 3 arms on one side. As long as the enemy approaches only from your 3 o'clock and you don't tip over, I'm sure they're in for a world of hurt.
We see several saucers shooting at the Cheyenne Mountains in Wyoming. Then President Bill Clinton in an emergency command bunker. He's informed of the destruction of D.C., the capture of all major capital cities around the world, over half the farmland destroyed to cut off food supplies, controlled tidal waves, giant robots, and a global death toll of more than 100 million. As we get closer and closer to his ever-reddening eye, it's revealed Cheyenne's defenses have failed, and there's no time to evacuate. And that's where we're leaving off. How will the various heroes of the world stop this encroaching menace? What other terrible weapons do the Martians have in store? Will the Commander-in-Chief put a gray toupee and a sash that says President on his VP in hopes of buying himself some time? Tune in next week for the conclusion. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues. Testing the mic, testing the mic, there, testing the mic, near. I am so alone.